You might have heard of the new Unholy Presence Death Knight spec that's supposed to be the new meta, but what you've likely heard is all wrong. So before you pay 50 gold to respec your talents, thousands of gold on a BWE ring, and use weak auras that are potentially terms of service breaking because they are accessing a protected function, I'm not even sure what that means, but it sounds bad, let me explain the truth about this new Evil Face spec and the secret tech from China. If you have ever PvP'd as an Unholy Death Knight, you stay in Unholy Presence most of the time and you utilize the improved Unholy Presence talents. This reduces the cooldown of your runes by 10% and it's great in PvP. Now I always wondered how improved Unholy Presence would do in PvE situations, and if you're like me and you look at logs and rankings, you might have noticed the top Unholy Death Knights from China. These guys are parsing all over the place. If you look at the 100 parse for patchwork, the Death Knight known as
快痛死
or Dying of Pain is using what is known as Evil Face spec for the dual wield Evil Death Knight. That's right. It's the dual wield Unholy Death Knight spec. Essentially, he's using improved Unholy Presence and staying in that presence throughout the entire fight, as opposed to a traditional Morb Unholy spec where you start the fight in Unholy Presence to snapshot your Gargoyle, then swap to Blood Presence for the remainder of the fight. So you're probably wondering, is this new Evil Face spec really better? To start off, I'm gonna quote from the dual wield Evil DK DPS guide from the China forums directly. Under the emulator in the boss battle, within 3 minutes, the whole Evil Face will exceed the normal open sky ghost cut red face play, slight advantage / or equal. Moreover, the emulator does not support the simulation logic of the full Evil Face very well, likely due to procs. In addition, maintaining an Evil Face throughout the entire process is slightly less difficult for the operator to operate. So what that means is basically, if the fight is less than 3 minutes, Evil Face spec will either be slightly ahead or equal to the traditional Morb Unholy build. And as a bonus, you don't have to switch to Blood Presence, which makes playing the spec easier. Well, from the parses, it clearly did exceed normal open Sky Ghost cut red face play, so let's look at some additional data from the logs and insight from the Chinese Evil Face guide itself. So, their kill time on Patchwork was 1 minute and 24 seconds. Compare that with my guild, which they would classify as civilian. Our best kill time is around the 154 mark, which is 30 seconds longer. In general, Unholy Death Knight scales better with shorter fights, and I think that's even more so with the new Evil Face spec. Also, let's look at the raid composition. 8 Unholy Death Knights, 3 Affliction locks, and it's like they round out the raid group to cover buffs. What does your current raid comp look like? And is your raid group able to push these kinds of numbers? Finally, let's look at the buffs for this insane Sky Ghost that did more than 260,000 damage. It had 14 buffs. This includes buffs from offhand weapon swapping to get black magic and berserking, doing what's called the 3 swords flow. According to the Evil Face DK guide, there is a 2 to 3 second window where you can snapshot the Sky Ghost if you get all these procs. So was this magical Christmas land? Probably. That doesn't mean this can't happen for you, but unless you are willing to spend almost 4 hours in Nax fishing for procs and wiping when you don't get them, it's not likely to happen all the time. So to recap, the new Evil Face spec is highly dependent on procs, relies on 3 sword flow, relies on landing all your procs for Sky Ghosts within a 2 to 3 second window, and relies on very short fights and not having a civilian raid team. So was this just an isolated incident or the next best thing? Well, honestly, I think it's a bit too early to tell, but in the right raid group, with the right procs, at the right time, the spec will pump. I will say it's fun to play, it is more fast paced, and so far, I am personally enjoying it. Some people have started testing it with some success, and I will post a link to those logs in the description below. I will be testing it out personally this weekend in our split run, and I'll let you know how it goes. As far as weapon swaps, you can use the Chinese weak aura, which may or may not corrupt your UI and break the terms of service, or you can just do it manually like I do. I have a weak aura that tracks black magic uptime and the internal cooldown, and then I use a very simple macro for the 3 swords flow. I also have a weak aura that shows me what weapons I have equipped. If you're interested in these weak auras and macros, you can find them in my Discord. If you want to find the latest info on the Chinese Evil Face tech, you can check out the discussion in the Blight Club Discord. There's a lot of people going through this right now, doing simulations, doing lots of practice, and that's where you're going to find the most current, up-to-date info. Thank you guys, that's all for this one. I hope you find the pink numbers, and
you know what to do.